Welcome to Unmasking the Mic. My name is Ralph Anthony, current stand-up comedian and actor living in New York City. Each week I'll be sitting down with a fellow comedian to discuss how they navigate the world and how being in therapy helps aid them in that journey. Thanks for tuning in. Now let the unmasking begin. Welcome back to another episode of Unmasking the Mic. I'm your host, Ralph Anthony, and today my guest is New Jersey-based comedian Elizabeth Lopez. She's been featured in the New York Underground Comedy Festival as well as the Turnpike Comedy Festival. Thank you for coming on today, Liz. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk therapy and mental health and all of it.
Right? Sign me up. New year, same debilitating conditions.
Exactly. Same shit.
That's amazing. I love when you came on and you had the big smile. I was like, this is going to be a great interview. This is going to be awesome. I'm very excited. I love talking to people who are passionate about this stuff because I think mental health is such a huge aspect for a lot of people, and no one really ever gives it kind of any credit until something major happens. So it's nice that you're proactive, that you messaged me on that post, and I'm excited to have you. I think this is amazing. So being that this is the beginning of the new year, obviously a lot of times folks think once January 1st hits, it's a lot of New Year's resolutions, new, what they say, like new year, new me.
Yeah,
How do you,
new energy.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. I think there is a new energy because there's always what are they? I'm not into astrology. My girlfriend is, but doesn't the end of the year signify the end of a moon, or there's a new moon, new energies? Am I right in that thinking?
I don't know. I don't really know much about all that shit either. Yeah. Sometimes I'll read my horoscope and I'm like, maybe it'll come true, maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough because if you see a good one, you're like, oh man, I want this to work. And then if you see not such a good one, you're like, oh, well, I don't believe in this shit anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you always win.
You always win. It's always a win-win.
Yeah.
My mom is very cute. She cuts good horoscopes and then will send me she'll send me cards in the mail, and she'll glue them to the cards or on an index card, and she'll be like, I read these and was thinking about you, so I just wanted to pass them along.
That's cute though.
Yeah, it's very interesting, but I'm also of the same mindset where it's I don't know how much weight any of this holds, so it's you're just kind of going on hopes and dreams.
Yeah, pretty much. It's funny, I actually wrote a joke yesterday. I was like, because with the new year you feel hopeful, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm not really feeling that though. I don't know. Maybe it's just the COVID of it all, but I'm not feeling that hope. I feel like it's for kids. It's kid shit, you know?
Kind of like Santa Claus.
Yeah, exactly. Don't say
Yeah.
that too loudly though.
I certainly won't. I certainly won't. Well, it does. I mean, that does make sense because for the last 2 years, it's been a lot. You remember how hopeful everybody was in 2019, 2019 into 2020. Everybody was like, let's go, let's get it.
Yep. 2020 vision, the whole thing.
2020 vision. How funny is that? 3 months later, we were in complete lockdown.
Yep.
So it's been mentally taxing for a lot of people. I know for myself, I don't do New Year's resolutions because I feel like it is too much pressure, but I am very optimistic into the new year. Now, were you someone that was always optimistic for the new year before COVID, or is this kind of just because of COVID, the way you're feeling?
I think the way I'm feeling is directly related to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Because pre-COVID, I had, I wrote out my goals for the year. They're always super high hopes,
Yeah.
Yeah. So COVID just fucked it up. Now
Yeah,
I'm just like, it's just gonna be another year of this bullshit.
yeah, it's very taxing. It's very
Mhm.
taxing. It's very depleting for a lot of people. Do you find that, being that you're in therapy, do you
Mhm.
talk a lot about how COVID is affecting your mental health?
Well, right now I'm not seeing my therapist, I'm seeing my psychiatrist, which is a little
Okay,
different.
sure.
So, like, we kinda just, like, lightly talk about, like, how I'm doing, how my mood's been, and then we talk more about medication.
Okay.
So but it's funny that you bring it up though, because I've been meaning to reach out to my therapist to get an appointment going because I feel like there's just so much going on in the world, so much like on my plate
Hmm.
that it would be nice to revisit.
Sure. I think that that's a good approach. And the fact that you still have someone in place. Now, were you seeing your therapist and psychiatrist at the same time? Or is it like an either or situation?
No, I was seeing them at the same time. Well, when I started my journey with therapy, um, I would say, how old am I now? I'm going to be 34. Don't mind saying that.
Sure.
Uh, so I'd say like 6 or 7 years ago is when I
Okay.
started with therapy. And it was just that. It was just a year of like talk therapy, figuring out like if there are things that I can do in my life to like improve my mood, like, working out and like different goals like that.
Sure.
But after a year, I felt like it wasn't really helping much with my
Hmm.
mood. So that's when I started taking medication and that's when I started seeing the psychiatrist. And then for like a few years after that, I was seeing them at the same time.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like a double your pleasure of mental health.
Exactly. And I feel like it's nice to know that I have a team behind me, like
Sure.
just doctors that I can reach out to when I'm not feeling like my mental healthiest,
Yeah.
and I encourage that for anyone that's listening, like don't it's funny, I was talking about this earlier, like I take 3 different medications and I always kind of felt like a stigma, like, oh, I'm taking so many things just to be able to function,
Yeah.
you know? But that part shouldn't matter.
No, I find that I find that the stigmas that we think are out there sometimes are really just a reflection of our own insecurities with what we have to deal with.
Yeah.
And I actually recently just learned that through meditation, through one of the meditations that I was doing, where they talked about different feelings in the world, in yourself, and they had said that it's a choice. So whatever you're feeling, you're choosing to have that feeling. So with this apprehension or this negative feeling about having to take medication, that's really yourself. That's like your insecurities about it. It's your own ego making you feel uncomfortable about what you have to do. And we all fall prey to those sort of things. So I think that talking about it kind of helps you gain that power back. And I like that
Mhm.
approach that you had said. You have a team. I think the world is too tough out there to go at this alone. I think everybody needs to
Mhm.
be in therapy. And I think if you have the opportunity and are capable to have a team behind you, I think that's huge. I think it's huge because if if you open up the newspaper at any given day, it seems like the world is ending. And it seems like the world has been ending for the last 2 years. And so
Mhm.
having that team in place behind you will help bolster you against what life is going to throw at you. Um, Now, for the people that are out there, people that are listening, can you explain, because I certainly don't know, what it is that your psychiatrist or a psychiatrist would do in conjunction with mental health and therapy?
Well, they can prescribe medication. That's the big difference. So, you just give them like a little like I usually see her every month. I give her a little update on what's going on in my life, and then she'll ask questions like, how I've been sleeping or how my appetite is. Um, just little questions like that. And then from there, they'll decide like if we need to adjust anything or add anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so a therapist, you can talk to a therapist about your mental state and what's going on in your life, but they technically cannot prescribe you anything. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay. And now, did your therapist help connect you with your psychiatrist, or did they say you need medication? Here's a list of people that I would recommend.
Well, initially, my therapist has a psychiatrist that she works with, and she recommends all of her patients go there.
Okay.
So that's how I did it. But the thing is that it's just like a New York versus, because I'm in Jersey,
Yep.
so it's like a New York versus New Jersey license thing. So my first psychiatrist practiced in New York, so I couldn't see her anymore. So then I just ended up finding someone local.
Okay. Sure. Now, given that it has been 2 years of COVID, a lot of inpatient, in-person visits are
Mm.
non-existent. How do you feel about doing like telehealth? Do you do like Zoom? Do you do FaceTime? Are you back to in-person visits? How do you go about speaking to your psychiatrist?
I only meet with her through Zoom, and I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I always felt like part of the stress for me when I was initially in therapy was getting there on time, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Just cuz I'm habitually late. Like I've gotten better over the years, but I'm just always late to shit. So like just the stress of like getting there on time and not wasting that other person's time even though you're paying for it, but like I don't know. It
How
just it made it stressful.
Yeah. How funny is that? We're paying to go speak to someone about our life. It's money from our hard earned income. We go to work, we make money, and then we spend it on mental health. And yet we still feel horrible about showing up late to a visit, to a session. Like, it's insane.
Well, that's the reason why we need therapy, isn't it?
I think that that is very
Because you
accurate.
just spiral.
That's it. My before COVID, I would do in person, obviously, like a lot of people, or
Mhm.
pretty much everyone. And so my therapist is on the Upper East Side. I used to live a 10-minute walk away from her. Now I live in Astoria. So it's a train
Mm.
ride into the Manhattan, and then it's a transfer uptown. And that half an hour, 45-minute trip used to be the most stressful period of my day. It's insane. It's insane when you have to rely on public transportation, because I feel like if you live in any urban area that has public transit, that's always the most stressful part of your day, because you're relying on other
Mhm.
people to get you places.
Exactly, and you have to navigate that whole system,
Yeah.
and
Now do
then,
you,
like, shit's not running, and yeah, it's a nightmare.
yeah. Now do you live, you said you lived in Jersey. Now do you,
I'm in Hoboken.
oh, you're in Hoboken. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, far out. I love Hoboken. It's a
Okay.
very fun, it's a very fun city, I think.
It is, it's nice.
Yeah. I would love to live on the, I couldn't live down by the path, but like I could go further up
Okay.
to like the border of Jersey City in Hoboken.
Okay, yeah.
My girlfriend, not so much. No, not at all.
She's not a Hoboken gal?
No, she lives in Central Jersey. So in the course of this last couple of months, obviously we've been talking about like moving in together. And so we're looking at like, northern Jersey, like Montclairish area, which would be
Okay.
nice. But I love Hoboken because it's like you're there, but technically technically you're in New Jersey, but you're so close to New York. It's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are. But like the speed's a little slower, which is
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. And I feel like that whole downtown area, like right when you come off of the path, like at the bottom of, what
Mm-hmm.
is it, Washington, like seeing the old trolley tracks in the road and like some of
Mm-hmm.
the signs and some of the buildings. I am a sucker for like old architecture. And so that's what I love about Hoboken, because it's very much a mix of old and new.
It is for sure, especially over the last like decade. Like
Yeah.
you see a lot of like unfortunately you're seeing brownstones getting torn down,
Yeah.
but you still do have like the older brownstones mixed with like the really modern looking buildings.
Hmm.
It's yeah, it's just weird.
Now, are you a Jersey girl born and raised?
Yep, born and raised in Hoboken.
Born and raised in Hoboken. Wow.
Yeah.
Native Hobokener. Okay.
Yeah, I know that never happens.
Never. I think you are one of two people that I've met in my entire life that are born and raised in Hoboken that like still live there. Like
Mhm.
I think that's awesome.
Well, I mean, thank you rent control for that cuz
Yeah.
I would not be able to afford it otherwise.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is.
Uh, it's amazing the things that you're willing to compromise for a good apartment.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, we're in relationship, obviously don't have to give out your address, but like in relationship to the path in Washington, was it, I think it's Washington Street, where,
Yeah, I'm on Washington,
oh, no way.
but I'm on the other side of town.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like
Okay.
closer to Weehawken.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Mhm.
My acting teacher lives up in Weehawken, and
Okay.
he loves it. He loves
Yeah,
it.
Weehawken's really nice.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to have those views of New York City.
Oh yeah.
It's really, it's really cool. I have a lot of love for New Jersey. I mean, my girlfriend being from there certainly helps in that thinking. However, it's funny as you get older, I was like ride or die, five boroughs, like New York City through and through. And in the
Mhm.
last year, 15 months, I'm like, yeah, Jersey's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's nice. It's quiet. You guys just legalized weed. I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Phil Murphy.
Right. I love Phil Murphy. Phil Murphy looks like a no nonsense kind of dude. Like he looks like the kind of dad that would be like the strictest dad on the block, but he would also be the dad that's like, if he caught you smoking weed behind the house, he'd be like, all right, just don't tell your mother.
Exactly.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's so cool. That's so
Mhm.
cool that you're over there. Now, in even given that it's like a slower pace of life, do you feel like that helps with some of like because I know with sometimes my own mental like the mental gymnastics that I have to go through sometimes. Do you find that being in New Jersey at a slower pace helps you maintain the level that you need to be at?
I say yes and no. Just because I live in a really densely populated town, so
Hmm.
like the constant people on top of me doesn't really do well for my anxiety, especially during COVID. But like outside of that, the pace is great for me.
Sure.
Like I need a little bit of action, but also, time to like recharge myself.
Yeah.
And I get all of that.
Yeah. Now, for the last 2 years, obviously, everybody's been more so indoors. And then, like, when things start to get a little better, everything explodes and everybody's, like you had said, on top of each other. If in a perfect world, if you had the opportunity to like pack up and like go into like, I don't know, maybe the suburbs or like the countryside I don't even know if Jersey has a countryside, but like, would you see yourself and your family moving out further out into like the woods, or do you like this like urban environment?
It's funny you say that because we are moving out of Jersey.
Wow.
Yeah.
No
After being
way.
here my whole life, we're gonna move to St. Augustine, Florida.
No way. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. I'm like
That-
really looking forward to it. We're gonna move this summer.
Okay.
So
Perfect
yeah.
time to move to Florida is in the summer. That's
Yeah, we'll see. And we had to do it in between like the school year for my daughter.
sure.
So like we still haven't broken it to her that they start the year early. So
Wow.
and so like she'll get out of school like late June and then what in August she'll have to go back.
Wow. So, all right. Does your daughter know that you guys are moving?
Oh yeah, she
Oh,
knows.
okay. I was going to be
She's on
like, this is
board.
a way to spring it on her. Hey, listen, everything that you've grown and loved in the last 9 years of your life, yeah, all that's going to be gone. And oh, by the way, we're cutting your summer vacation in half. Like, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? I promise I'll take out the dishes. I'll do the garbage, whatever you need me to do.
Well, that's why we're throwing a Disney trip in there to soften the blow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because we'll be 2 hours from Orlando.
Okay. So St.
Yeah.
Augustine, is that north, like towards Jacksonville, or is that south towards
Yeah.
like Fort Lauderdale?
It's by Jacksonville. It's in like an hour away.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Good for you. Listen, I have said time and time again that I think people need to go through one major change at least once a decade. So obviously in
Mm.
your 20s you had your daughter. It's a major life change. And now in your 30s, you're moving to a completely different area.
That's actually a really nice way to put it. I
Yeah.
never thought of it that way.
I think life should be an adventure. And the only way to go on an adventure is to experience new things. And new things are scary, new things can be overwhelming, but they can also be very exciting. And
Mhm.
and this is something that I have recently just embraced myself with moving from New York to moving to New Jersey next year, is like we think about what we're giving up. That's what we think about. Whenever there's a big change, we're thinking about, oh my God, I'm giving up X, Y, and Z. But we don't realize that even though we're giving up X, Y, and Z, we're also gaining A, B, C, D, and F,
Mhm.
you know? And
Definitely.
I think that that's really cool.
Yeah, and that's, again, looking on the positive side.
Yeah. I think that's really where therapy for me has really been the game changer, is really embracing a more positive outlook on life, because
Mhm.
it all starts upstairs. It all starts in between your two ears. That's it. It doesn't matter where you are in life. If you're not right on the inside, you won't be right on the outside.
That's so true. I mean, like I remember doing when I started therapy, I did a lot of Louise Hay meditations.
Mm-hmm.
Um and like she would go through like, gratitude, things that you're grateful for, like the things on your way to work that you might be grateful for, like the train that takes you there, or bus or whatever you might take, your car.
Yeah.
Um and just like all those little things throughout your day, like being grateful for having plumbing,
Yeah.
you know? Like just simple things to show gratitude towards, cuz it really does it it just helps like reprogram your brain, you know?
Yeah.
So that you can just like feel lighter.
Yeah. And it's like you have to put in that work in order to see the progress from everything else that you're doing. Our brains are wired to negativity. It's easier to have a negative thought than it is a positive thought. That's
Mhm.
why they say it takes something like 180 muscles to make a smile. Like, it's insane. It's so crazy that it's harder to smile than it is to frown. It's harder to have a positive thought than a negative thought. But if you do the daily day to days, it makes the whole process of it all much more enjoyable and easier as life goes on. Now, based on what those meditations had taught you, do you still continue with the gratitude mindset?
Definitely. I mean, that's where it all starts. That's like the basics. Don't you think? Like
Yeah.
starting from a place of gratitude, it just, like I said, makes you lighter, and you can move about the day. Like, I know when I was like in more of a depressed state, it would always feel like I was like walking through molasses or something, like
Yeah.
everything just took so much effort to do, like just the slightest thing. But having that like positive, like gratitude minded outlook, um it just pushes through all that.
Yeah. I really think it's the I think the gratitude mindset is what binds people together to a more positive outlook. Like you had said, I start every day. I journal every day, but I start every
Right.
journal entry with three things that I'm grateful for. And then I don't just write it out. I'll like write what I'm grateful for. Like it could be something like it said, something basic, like I'm grateful for this cup of coffee. Well, why am I grateful for this cup of coffee? It helps wake me up, keeps me alert, it gives me energy. And so I'll do that 3 times for 3 different things every day. And then before I go to bed, I literally have a stack of little like 3x5 notepads. And that's strictly just a gratitude journal.
Mm.
But I've become in such a mindset of doing it that if by chance I forget and I lie down, I will wake back up. I will get back up and write out 3 things because I can't mentally go to sleep.
Hmm. That's such a great practice.
Thank you.
And like, I think for anyone listening, if like you want to get into journaling, like do it. It's really helpful, and a good way to start is, yeah, coming up with the things that you're grateful for and then just leaving it in the pages, and you know, it sticks with you. It stays in the back of your mind.
Yeah. I think it's really a powerful tool. And I had so much, I guess, toxic masculinity for years where the thought of journaling seemed so foreign to me. And when I was struggling with acting school in May of 2020, mind you, we were 3 months in the pandemic. I was living alone, and I had a friend tell me, she was like, you should try journaling. Just try it. And I did. I wrote 1 entry, and it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders.
Mhm.
So that was the first step. Then I'm a big fan of consistency, like consistently showing up for whatever it's important in your life. And a lot of times we don't put ourselves first. We put everything else in our lives ahead of ourselves.
Mhm.
And so I thought, well, I wrote this 1 journal entry. Let me try to write another entry. And so I didn't get a chance to do it the next day, but I think I went like 2 days. And so for that first like 7 to 10 days, I was writing every other day, just about, or every couple of days. And then eventually I started writing every day. And the entries went from, I don't know, like a few hundred words to 500 to 700 to 1,000. And then I remember in the height of the summer when I was dealing with my own trauma and facing it, I was writing 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 words at a clip. And I felt I felt like this vibration in the universe. And I know it sounds really silly to a lot of people, but if you get your mental and emotional and spiritual energy all in sync with each other, it's amazing how the universe will reward you. And that's just where I've been at. And, now I don't, I write every day, but if I write 500 words, great. If I write 300 or 250 or whatever it is, but the fact that I'm able to process the emotions and get them out, I think it's huge.
Mhm. Yeah, it's all about like just getting it out because I don't know about you, but like I get like obsessive in my head. Like I'll lock onto an idea or, anything. Maybe it's a conversation that I had that didn't go the way I wanted it to.
Hmm.
And I just like obsess over it and think about it all day.
Yeah.
And being able to journal, like if I were to just like journal about that conversation, then it just stays there and then I can move about my day, and just
Yeah.
kind of forget about it.
Now, do
Or,
you,
you kind of process it in the pages.
yeah. Now, do you handwrite it or you do it on like a laptop or on your
I
phone?
handwrite.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Good
So
for
it like
you.
it looks like shit, but but at least I'm doing it.
Yeah. I think that that's amazing. And I think there's certainly a connection to writing things out by hand because I think it's more emotional. I don't know if that
Mhm.
makes any sense, but like it's kind of like when you type, there's a connection to the what you're typing, but when you write, it's almost like it. I feel like the words flow through you much more deeply.
Yeah, I think so. That's why I like to handwrite for that emotion. And you can kind of see it on the page too, like the way when I'm like really excited about something or really angry about something, like my handwriting changes. So, it's always do you ever look back at your old entries?
It's funny. I used to tape them. I had a few from last summer, summer of 2020, and I had them taped on my wall.
Oh, you did?
I did because they were very special to me. I'm a big, I'm a big crier. Uh,
Okay.
I ever since I went into acting school and was able to unlock my heart. I was like one of those people that had like this huge armored plate on his chest. And so once I started going through acting school and then subsequently I started to journal, the things that I was writing about were very personal, it's very emotional, and I would just break down and start crying. And
Mm.
so on those days, not every day that I would cry, but certain days where I would cry, I would print out that entry and I would tape it to my wall because I wanted to be reminded of how special that entry was to myself, to me.
Okay.
Um,
That's really nice.
thank you. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, I don't necessarily always go back and look. Sometimes I
Mm.
do, but not always.
I personally like to just because, like, if I look at an entry from a year ago, it just gives me some like perspective on life. Like, oh, the things that I worried about a year ago are insignificant today.
Yeah.
So maybe I shouldn't put so much energy into those little things that might bother me because, in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing.
Yeah, that's huge. That's a huge tool.
Hmm.
If you're listening right now in your journaling, try this out. Try it out. Go back to an entry from 6 months ago to a year ago, because that's a good mile marker. It's a good marker
Hmm.
in your life where in the moment we think things are devastating. We think that,
Hmm.
oh my God, why is this happening? How is this happening? How am I going to recover from it? Because it feels like our world sometimes is collapsing in on us.
Hmm.
And going back like you're doing, it's huge because it shows you how strong you've become through your meditations, through your journaling, through speaking to a therapist, through seeing your psychiatrist. These are all tools in your toolkit to help
Hmm.
you process everything that's going on in your life.
Yeah, you need that toolkit.
Yeah. Now, was there a I know you're not in therapy now, but
Hmm.
was there a significant event in your life that prompted you to go to therapy, or was this like a culmination of just like life building up inside of you?
I mean, it was definitely life building up inside of me, but the defining thing that happened was my husband had gone to rehab. So he's in our relationship, he's gone twice.
Hmm.
So it was the first time he went, and I was just kind of like, what? I felt like I just looked up and all of a sudden, like, my life had just fallen apart. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Now I'm like a single mom, and it was just crazy.
Yeah.
So that's what pushed me into therapy.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, because that's
Yeah.
something, it's something very personal. And I don't think a lot of people realize the struggles of others around them. And here
Hmm.
you are, you know, yes, you're an adult, but you were still a baby. You were what, 24, 25 years old, a single parent. That's fucking hard. That's fucking hard to
Hmm.
do. And, you know, to have not only not have someone, but to know that they're off in their own struggles, that's
Hmm.
that's got to be taxing. It's got to weigh a lot on you. So the fact that you took that upon yourself is amazing. So, kudos to you. Thank you for sharing, and you know, thank you for taking charge.
Yeah, of
That is
course. I
very
mean, if it
commendable. I appreciate
if
that.
it helps someone listening, then I'm always going to tell my story.
And that's it. And that was the whole point of the podcast. That's where this all came about, because literally when things go on, I've had this thought. I think everyone that's anyone in life has these moments where they're like, I'm the only one going through this.
Yeah,
And that's a sad state of affairs. And I include myself
it
in that.
is. It is. It's, and like mental illness thrives when you're alone
Yeah.
and when you think that no one else can understand you. That's why it's good to talk about, because maybe people have gone through it or currently going through it, or you know, maybe they can just point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
You never know.
And that's it. That's it. Therapy is not the cure all for everyone. However, it can lead you into a path where you could find help. You know, it could help find you a psychiatrist to get the right medication. It could
Mhm.
help you in the direction of finding, I don't know, meditations, whatever the case may be. It's not like a one size fits all path for everyone. And
Mhm.
and I think that's really powerful. That's really powerful. Now, given that situation that you were going through, single mom, husband off in rehab, new to therapy, was your family supportive in this mental health journey?
They definitely were supportive, and the thing is, my husband and I are born and raised in Hoboken, so like we still have family around,
Hmm.
and I really needed to lean on them at that time,
Yeah.
whether it was like to watch my daughter so I can go to a therapy session, or so I can work, you know, just for like any help or like just someone to talk to.
Yeah. That's awesome. I know a lot of times people that I've talked to with their family situations or whatever the family dynamic is, they don't feel that support initially.
Mhm.
They're scared to talk about being in therapy because there is such a stigma attached to it. Why do you think we feel like that? Why do you think people sometimes will keep going to therapy to themselves while they're not so vocal about, hey, listen, I'm bettering my life?
I mean, I feel like I could only talk about my own experience. I don't know why other people would keep it to themselves, but I know for me, like I didn't even tell anyone that my husband had a drinking problem until the day he was in rehab, because I was just ashamed of it. And my dad was also an alcoholic, so I felt like I was kind of like living my mother's life,
Mm,
and like I kind of felt like, man, like I should have known better. So, yeah, I'd say shame is probably a big reason why you don't say anything.
yeah, I think I think shame is a very big thing that's attached to therapy because people are afraid of what others will think of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we love our families. Families are always typically supportive, but I know that there are people that I've talked to where it's like the first things out of their parents' mouth when they talk about being in therapy is how their parents felt like they let them down. Where it's not so
Mm-hmm.
much even the person that's in therapy, there's not a positive connection where it's like, hey, listen, I needed help. I found help. It's more or less, oh my God, I failed you. So it's like taking the ownership of being in therapy and putting it, someone else is trying to take that ownership where it's like, just be supportive. I think parents have a tough time with having children in therapy at times if mental health isn't always not a hot topic, but if mental health isn't always talked about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's isn't that what you were talking about earlier? Insecurities? Maybe it's just like an insecurity of a parent. Like, I probably fucked up somewhere. I'm not really sure where. And this kid has to go to therapy now because of me,
Yeah.
you know?
Now, after that first session, did you feel like an immediate impact on your life? Did you feel like a weight had been lifted off your chest?
I kind of felt like it was a bit of a whirlwind. Like, I just had this session. I just kind of rambled on. And, she listened for most of the time. And then at the end of the session, it's hard to describe how I felt exactly, but she actually recommended a book to me called The Family by John Bradshaw.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna
Yeah.
write that
And it's
down.
just about like, um, dysfunctional households and the roles that everyone plays in the dysfunction. It's a really interesting book. So she recommended it to me and I started reading it and I was like, damn, this bitch gets me. Like she understood me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But like, at the time I was like, before reading the book, I was just like, I'm not really sure what happened.
Mm. It kind of like leaves you in a little bit of a fog.
Yeah.
It's a very different feeling. I know for myself, I felt like I was on drugs. Um,
Mm.
I felt like I was on drugs. I remember walking out, and just so happened I had gotten a block, about a half a block up the street to like Third Ave, because I didn't want to go home right away. I lived at that time, I was living over on First. I was living on First and 74th, and I didn't want to go home right away. I was like, I feel amazing. Let me walk around. And my father had called me. And as soon as I answered the phone, he goes, Ralph, it's like 1:30 in the afternoon. How fucked up are you? I was just like, not fucked up at all. Just, I think I just made up some excuse. I was just like, oh, I just feel really good. It's a gorgeous day. It's springtime. I don't know. Um, but it was one of those life-changing moments. And I always remember that feeling. And it's like, you always want to I felt like I wanted to keep capturing that. It's like capturing lightning in a bottle, that feeling after therapy.
Mhm.
Um, you have been doing stand up for some time. Have you
Mhm.
been doing stand up as long as you've been doing have you been doing stand up as long as you've been in therapy for?
I no, it there was probably how much time would I say? I'd say there was probably like a year difference. Like I started therapy and then a year later I started stand up.
Okay. Now, well, congratulations, because that's a hefty amount of stand up time. That's a to still be doing it. That's certainly an accomplishment in and of itself. Um, do you find that therapy has helped Do you find that therapy has helped your stand-up career?
Yeah, because it got me on the stage. I was like I knew I wanted to try it,
Mm-hmm.
but just the fear of getting on stage and like making an ass of myself was just terrifying.
Yeah.
So I needed to work that through in therapy for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So I spent that first year writing material and not getting on stage once. And then finally I did it and I was like, oh, okay, I can do this.
It's so funny how we build up stand-up in our heads,
Mm-hmm.
especially that first time. You build it up and build it up and build it up. And then, as you're building, kind of like everything we've talked about before, your ego takes over. And it's like it just exacerbates that insecurity of being up there and looking like a fool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if you bomb.
Oh yeah.
Oof, that ego hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool though, that therapy was like the precursor to stand up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, do you find though, since you've been doing stand up for so long and you've been in therapy just about, just a little bit longer than that, do you find that therapy has helped you open up on things that you want to talk about on stage?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like therapy was the first place I would like talk about any issues. And then after time, you kind of get bored of talking about the same shit, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Like you're just kind of like, all right, I'm sick of talking about how my father's alcoholism affected me. And then, you get to a point where you can laugh about it. And
Yeah.
then I would bring it to the stage.
Okay. So it's like a whole process. Like,
Yeah.
would you write down ideas about how you were feeling and then turn those ideas about what you were feeling into material, like into jokes? Was that like part of your process?
It was more about like telling stories for
Mm-hmm.
me. Um, as opposed to like starting from like an emotion, I guess.
Okay.
Um, yeah, does that answer the question? I don't know.
Yeah. Listen, the, you answer any question with if you answer any question with honesty and you're authentic, that's answering the question properly. That's all
Okay.
I ask for. I just want people to be honest and to be open. That's really what it is. So I think that's amazing that you're able to work through these things through therapy and then slowly but surely bring it into a story or create a story and bring it to the stage. I think that
Mhm.
that's awesome. Now, do you find that because you've been on this journey for so long, do you find that there are topics you're not as comfortable talking about with your therapist or with your psychiatrist?
Yeah, it's always hard for me to talk about sex.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure why. And maybe I should talk about it more to figure that out. But it always just seems like, I don't know, like I don't want to do my husband like that by talking about our sex life, you know?
Yeah,
Like it
sure.
feels like a very private thing.
Sure. Well, it is. It's always
I
been
mean, even
considered.
though I have like pussy jokes and like, I make all these like really disgusting jokes, but yeah.
There's always a division between personal life and stand up. And no matter how intertwined those two aspects of our lives are, there's still certain things that people don't always feel so comfortable about. I've interviewed people where they say that similar situation because they have a male therapist, that they don't feel comfortable talking about sex, or they have a female therapist that they don't feel comfortable talking about sex because I think in this country, sex has always been considered taboo. Even during
Mhm.
the sexual revolution of the 60s, you know, everybody's free flowing in Europe, and over here we're like conservative Puritans. It's like, you know, there's always been this shuttered, closeted aspect to everyone's sexual life.
Mm-hmm.
And it will never be mainstream sex, no matter what anybody says in this country, no matter what you see on TV or in the movies or on music videos or in songs. I think there will always be this unveiled layer of conservatism in terms of
Well,
sex.
thank you for saying that, because now I feel like I can blame my problem on society. It's not my fault.
It isn't your fault. It's certainly not. It's certainly not. We're all programmed. We're all programmed. We're all conditioned because we're all products of the environments that we live in. So it's like deep down, if you started really digging into certain aspects of all of our lives, there's always going to be something. We are the product of our environment, plain and
Mm-hmm.
simple.
Yeah.
So, and thank you for being honest about it, and thank you, uh um as a dude in a relationship, thank you for having that sort of respect for your husband. I think that that's awesome.
Thanks.
I don't know if any of that makes sense. But like I think as men and women in relationships, or as people, I should say people in relationships, it's funny because I had a joke about this years ago. I was like, nobody ever wants to hear that they're bad in bed. No one. I would rather be told that I was a horrible comic. That was one of my issues. That was one of my issues with dating a comedian, because I was always more afraid if something happened, I would never want to hear that I was a bad comic or a bad leg.
Mm.
And I think that,
Especially on stage.
oh yeah,
Yeah, that's
like
gotta hurt.
it has to, because there are comedy couples out there that do break up, and you hear these jokes and you're like, Jesus fucking Christ, I cannot believe I have to listen to this now.
Mm-hmm.
I think I mean, personally, as a comic, I think it's hilarious. But as someone,
Yeah, it's always fun watching someone else's train wreck,
yeah, oh my God,
not your own.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll bring the gasoline to this dumpster fire. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's not, that's very interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely feel like there are, I mean, in order to like maintain a good, healthy, long-lasting marriage, I feel like there has to be that understanding. Like, my husband's a huge fan of comedy and he like gets what I do, which is great, and he's super supportive of it.
Yeah.
But, we do have that understanding, like, there are some topics that you shouldn't talk about.
Yeah. Same. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because there has to be some form of mutual respect. Not everything,
Mhm.
everything can be made fun of, but not everything has to be a joke.
Right.
I feel like I sound like my dad when I say that.
Did you just channel him right now?
I really did. I really did.
Those moments are the worst. I
Oh,
have them all the time.
yeah. I remember growing up as a kid, just being like yelling at my dad, just being like, I'm never going to be like you. And now at least once a week, I'm like, oh my God, I'm just like my dad.
Yeah.
It's frightening. It's so frightening. Now, a big thing that I find in my own mental health journey is when there are triggers, and I don't necessarily like using the word trigger because I think the word trigger is very triggering to people. When you have these when you have these emotional or mental triggers, because you have such an extensive experience with mental health and speaking to therapists and a psychiatrist, are you able to identify the situation and really talk yourself down or write your way out of it?
Yeah, I mean, I I always try not to react. Like, that's always been my MO, so
Hmm.
it's made it easier to like not react and like kind of think about how you're feeling, why you're feeling it
Yeah.
before speaking or doing anything. So I feel like that helps me a lot. And another little thing, a little ditty for you. Um, have you heard of HALT?
HALT? No.
Yeah. It stands for hungry, angry, lonely, or tired.
Oh my God. What is it? Hungry, angry, lonely, or tired?
Yeah. So like anytime I start to feel cranky and I want to like just like unleash it on my husband, I'm like, hang on a second. Am I any of these things? And if I am, then like I'll take a beat to myself. It's super helpful.
I'm literally writing this down as you say it.
Uh-huh.
That's so true. Yeah, those are four aspects of anything that happens. I always feel like it can be attributed to that for sure.
Yeah. And it just like it helps you save face too, so you don't look like a complete asshole.
Oh my God. Yeah, for sure. So, all right. So if you were having a situation and let's say it was like two of these things. So you went through your whole HALT analysis and you're like, all right,
Mhm.
well, I'm starving and I'm overtired. Are you able to like go have a sandwich and take a nap and then feel better?
Yeah, I mean, the nap doesn't always come by. I just kinda have to, like, deal with being tired or, at least sit down for a
Yeah.
little bit.
Okay.
But, like, yeah, the hunger's always easy to remedy.
Yeah.
Like, you have food, just eat.
Just eat. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
kind of like that. I don't know if you ever saw it, the Snickers commercial where it's like it shows a
Oh,
guy
yeah.
flipping out and it's like Joe Pesci and they give him a
Uh-huh.
Snickers and it turns out to be like this nice cuddly individual.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so true though. I feel like the term hangry is a very real emotion.
It is, and it should just be accepted as an emotion.
It really should be. We need to get on this. We
I
need to get on
know.
this. We need to write some. I don't know who we need to write to, but I think we should jot this down in our
I feel
journal
like we have to
tomorrow.
write to Webster's dictionary or something to
Okay.
make it real.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, just make it official.
Yeah. I don't know.
If
You
it
you,
if you
you
can
talk to
find the definition, it's a thing.
yeah. You talk to Webster. I'll talk to Miriam, and then we'll get it going.
Okay, there we go.
That's awesome. So, Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk about your mental health journey. And I want to applaud you for being on your journey. I think it's huge, given the stuff that we've talked about, that you have taken this proactive approach and that you are routinely going through the steps to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. So whenever you think that you're not doing enough, please realize that you are doing everything you can and you are literally living testament to a positive mental health journey.
Thank you. I feel like I need to speak to you every week.
Well,
You're,
you
like,
just
so good for my self-esteem.
well, this podcast means a lot to me. I love stand-up comedy and I love mental health. I think the marrying up of these two aspects of my life has been really influential on how I want to go forward in this world. And comics, I think comics are the most special people that are out there. We have a gift, we have a talent, and we have a job. We have a job to do. Anytime I get on stage to talk about something that's going on in my life or some weird aspect of what I see, I know that I'm not always the first one to see it. Somebody else has seen this or somebody else has gone through this. So I feel like it helps people, I think it helps just people go about their day to know that they're not alone. And if
Mhm.
this podcast can help, then that's a magical thing for me.
Nice. And comics are also the most fucked up people, so there will always be a mental health issue to talk about.
Yeah, I'm never at a shortage of people to interview, that's for sure.
Exactly. Keep this on.
Now, Elizabeth, before I let you go, I have two questions, two for two, just two final thoughts that I love to close every episode with. The first one is, if you could describe therapy in one word, what would it be?
Hmm. Peace.
Peace. I dig it. I like that. It's
Okay.
therapy is peace. It's
Yeah.
very true. Very true. And my next question, final question, is if you had a friend or if you knew somebody that was debating on going to therapy, but they just weren't sure what to do, what's some advice that you would give them?
Just go to Google and, you can like find someone on a sliding scale. So like you pay you know, what you're able to pay. And then hopefully if your income changes, you can pay them a little more. You can also go to, I know a lot of people use psychology today to search for therapists in their area. I would recommend that too.
Okay. Well, you
Was that
guys,
too technical or?
no, no, not at all. I think that that's phenomenal. I didn't even know about psychology today, to be honest with you. I remember being a magazine in my therapist's office, but I haven't been in her office in over 2 years, almost 2 years. So that's huge. So you guys heard it here first. If you're thinking about going to therapy, if you're on the fence, go on Google, do some research, and check out Psychology Today. And hopefully you find the right fit to help aid you on your mental health journey. So, well, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. Have yourself a great day.
Thank you. You too.
I want to thank you for taking some time out of your day to join us on this mental health journey. My name is Ralph Anthony, and this has been another episode of Unmasking the Mic. We'll be back next week with a brand new interview. Until then, stay present, stay in the moment, and keep your head up.